Hello, I'm Ross from figurepainting.co.uk, and this is a battle report of a game of Salle. It's a scenario that my good friend Roger has come up with. It's based on something he had in a previous game, I think it was Napoleon at War, where the table, well, you'll see the details in a minute, but basically we have opposite corners to defend and to attack across. I've got a bit of a backlog of games. I'm playing a lot of games lately. Loads of reports I should be putting up. Rather than go back and try and remember them, which I should be trying to work my way through, I've decided to do the most recent one while it's fresh in my mind and get myself back into the swing of it, because it's been quite a break since I last put any reports up. So over to this scenario. Okay, so the table is split into four effectively. There's a river running across the middle, as you can see, on a road which doesn't have much effect. It sort of exaggerates where the bridge is. And the key things to remember are one section of river either side of the bridge is impassable terrain, forcing you to go further out where the river just counts as difficult and slows you for the crossing. Four pieces of scenery get placed, which we take turns doing. So this is what we got. You roll randomly on the table in the book. I rolled, I think it was six twice, sorry, and got a hill each time. Roger got the enclosed field, which is that brown shape you see, and the village. And had to make sure the village wasn't within 4 of where he's going to place an objective, because that make it almost impossible to take it. You'll take out the village and the town and the garrison, and as we know from previous games, that's difficult. And we'll get a big advantage. So whichever corner he goes to, I'm the defender, so I'll be choosing one corner on my side of the table to deploy on, and then an objective will be placed by me on the other one of my 2 starting corners, the 2 at the bottom if you like, and then in opposite corners. So as it turns out, I deploy it in the bottom right hand corner, meaning I put the objective in the bottom left obviously, and Roger deploys the top left corner, with that town hopefully getting in the way in a bit, and he's going to place an objective on the top right hand corner. It has to be near to the bridge, but he's generously making sure it's out of range of his town, not to gain an advantage from that. So I've got the Prussians, there's me in the middle, the general, and I've got 2 corps commanders. Also there's going to be reserves, reinforcements coming on later, which will be the cavalry. Due to the nature of the camp of the scenario, expect to have infantry trying to get there first rather than cavalry galloping up and claiming a win, and it stops. Once the cavalry's on the table, it's much harder to move the infantry around, because you have to form squares and avoid them, that kind of thing. So I've got, there's commanders. I've got 1 unit of sort of the grenadiers, the elite guys. I'm the Prussians, by the way. Then I've got my sort of standard infantry, 3 units of those. They're the reserves, they're called, so they're actually amateurs. Oh, that hasn't come out too well. There's my regulars, a couple of units of those. And then the fun ones, the Landwehr. If you don't know the rule on those, you don't know. They're amateurs, but you don't know how up for the battle they're going to be. So the first time they come into contact with the enemy, you roll a d6. If you roll a 6, they are excellent for the rest of the game and fight great. If you roll a 4 or 5, they're sort of good enough, as it were, excellent for that round of combat. Then you roll again next time. If you roll a 1, 2 or 3, they are just rabble and they get the disadvantages. So yeah, I like that. They're good fun. Bit of unpredictability. So overall, I've got 10 units of infantry and 1 unit of artillery. And there's Roger's force. Oh yes, sorry, the picture's a bit small on the software I'm using to record this. So that's all his infantry. As you can see, he's got, as you should be able to see, there's 10. 4, 8, 9, 10, that's right. I've got 9, he's got 10. But mine are better quality. All those are amateur. It's a sort of 1813 recruitment army. But the twist is, the French, they come along with 2 batteries of artillery, which actually proved quite significant in this, because there's not much scenery around, and you have to cross the table to get to the other objectives, and they're pretty powerful in the Salle. especially against march columns. So that became a bit of an issue. So Rogers deployed first, in the top left-hand corner, as you can see. So on the far left, those are columns infantry, perpendicular to the river, so we can cross as quickly as possible and be into my home corner, if you like, where the objective is. He's then got the artillery at an angle next to the town with a perfect field of fire across the bridge and right into the heart of my area around the bridge, so they're a real pain. He's got a unit behind just to back them up, and then the top behind the town, you can't see them very well, he's got the rest of his infantry in columns, march columns that is, ready to flood across to the right to get to his objective there and stop me taking it. He could go for, well, he's going to go for the quick grab and try and get all three, I think, and then just claim a quick victory like that. So there's a close-up of his columns on the left-hand side, getting ready to cross the river, and there's a close-up of what's happening around the village or town. See the artillery set up there. Oh yes, the second artillery battery is in column next to the infantry at the back, so they're going to come swing around, set up the artillery, and have the infantry guarding that objective, I presume. What it also does, of course, is create a nice crossfire in the middle of the table. So here's my army. My deployment was a bit more difficult than I thought, because the range, my original plan was to set up more or less in the middle, but of course I put that stupid hill in the way, which doesn't help, and then get across the river as quickly as possible with the majority of my army, almost all of it, to try and smash his smaller command. I might also add here, I wasn't fully aware, I'm sure it was mentioned, but I hadn't really picked up on it, that we would be getting, I know it was mentioned, that we'd be getting reserves at some point, and that these would be heavy cavalry. So if I'd thought about that a bit more, I might have held back a bit, because the difficulty I have, and the reason I'm in this kind of arc, is the range of the artillery is very long, and the French have got that battery set up just waiting to pick off my columns, so I've had to move them across as far as I can. But if I go too far to the right, by the time they cross the river and start marching, they set up the other battery, or even brought that battery round, and I'm just as far from the objective. And of course the river's a problem as well. I'm only moving 4 base widths instead of 8 while I cross the river. So all in all, it's difficult, and there's nowhere really for me to hide. There's 2 batteries of artillery set up pretty soon, with a really nasty crossfire covering on almost the whole of the centre of the table. I've got my 1 battery here, which I've set up out of range. Just hoping he comes to me and I get to shoot first. What else can you do, really? And my plan is for the bottom 2 or 3 battalions to be the ones that try and defend the objective on the left. You can just see it up on the middle left of the screen. That brown square, that's the objective. So I'm hoping that with the artillery fairly near, 2 or 3 battalions, the least I can possibly do it with, I can hold off the 5 battalions swinging around my far left to try and take this objective. I'm hoping if they can hold them long enough, do enough damage with the artillery, hopefully my army on the right, where I'm sending 6 battalions hopefully, will smash their way through and break his army, so I can win by default rather than objectives. Right, so there's me moving my columns so they just skirt outside the range of the artillery, and I'm trying to arrange it so that I get a couple of units on the left which are going to be the nearest to his artillery when it does shoot it, because he has to fire at the nearest targets. He gets to hit 2, so the main force can pass unmolested. But the trouble is, artillery get double dice against march columns, that's 8 dice. You're hitting on 4s, 5s and 6s. You need 2 hits of 1, I think it is, and then 5 to do 2 hits. So if you're only 16 dice, you know, you've got a chance to get 9, which is 3 hits. So it's a really bad spot to be, and hitting 2 columns each time. So maybe I should just gone wider. I don't see any way of avoiding those artillery. The problem is, you think the solution would have been to put the hills much nearer the centre of the table, much nearer the bridge, to block some lines of fire and actually give me some cover. But the rules of the scenario, they can not be nearer than 8 base widths, which is what they are basically. And if you're trying to work out the range of his artillery, well, it's a bit less than the left edge of everything you can see on my army, so that's me trying to move them across there. So there's another view of my army after the first move. Columns at the bottom, not deploying yet to come and save this objective, but to almost let him have it and shoot him from range with the artillery combined. That's the plan there. The other columns are trying to stream over the hill and onto across the river and try and grab that, well, not even bother with that objective really, try and smash the 4 or so battalions that are coming their way. Okay, just working out where I've got to get to. If I was going to go wide enough to avoid his artillery, because he's now deployed, as you can see the top middle, their artillery in his movement, I'd have to go right to the edge of the table, and it's just not worth it. I'm going to have to bite the bullet, cross the river, into the artillery fire. I can't just sit off either, I'll get shot to pieces eventually. I've got to get stuck in, try and break those few battalions on the top, and then maybe take out the guns, try and break the army that way. So turn 2. Oh yes, by the way, I should have explained that as the attacker I got to go first. Sorry, as the defender I get to go first. Otherwise the attacker could just deploy his troops with the artillery in range and blast you. So you've got to give some chance to the defender. So here's Rogers. It's difficult to tell from the photograph, but he's moving along the top, and his artillery, we allow artillery to be manhandled. This is a bit of a house rule. 1 base width, and that can be a wheel. Or the reason we've done this is that normally they set up and that's where they're going to shoot, and we spent so much time with infantry and units manoeuvring them so they just missed the fire line, and he spent the whole game, the game became about dodging the artillery firing lanes. I just got a bit silly, so we thought, right, we'll allow the artillery a correction so that it saves so much time when you play the game. I highly recommend it, because then you know you can't just fiddle just outside the arc of fire of the artillery. They're going to twist and hit you anyway. Okay, turn 3, so it's back to me. You can see now the smoke markers I'm using show which units have fired, and the red balls are showing the damage that was done. So in Roger's turn, I should explain the time, and you can see the tufts of smoke at the top. They've fired onto the columns, of course, 8 dice. Oh, he's done 1 hit, got very lucky there. And my artillery has done a great job, because they fired at both the artillery. I can't remember if it's both or not. Anyway, the point was they got enough hits on the middle one to force them to limber up. They don't actually move away or do anything, but it means they can't shoot for another turn. So that was a real bonus, getting 2 hits there. 5 dice landed. So there you see a close-up of that. I put the 3 casualty markers. Sorry, 3 hits. Oh gosh, that's right, 5 dice, 3 hits, which causes them to limber up, which buys a little bit of time for the columns on the right coming across. You can see his artillery's unfortunately done damage on the columns already. And there's the columns, 2 hits each. I mean, all I've done is try to get into the game. It's a nightmare having that artillery there. Okay, turn 4, so we're back to Roger. Normal game of Salle, by the way, is 16 turns, and then you roll randomly to find out if it goes on beyond that. Okay, so there's a picture of the overall battlefield. These are Roger's columns you see in the bottom left hand corner. They're sweeping around this hill, 5 battalions. I'm going to try and take that objective, or at least be the nearest one to it. And I was a bit slow on the uptake here, because I've got nothing really close to the bridge. If he could move nothing close to my objective, he's got his objective. If he did a quick grab, he could actually take the bridge and this objective and win the game straight away by scenario. So I've got to at least compete with one of those. And I was also a bit dumb here, because the 2 columns of landwehr you see, so the sacrificial columns, are too close to the bridge to cross it. That's impassable. So Roger let me shove them back a little bit so I could turn them one way or the other, and I've decided they're going to be the sacrifice and take the artillery fire, hopefully rally. What can they do? Go to attack columns so they're not as vulnerable, and yeah, You don't want to be them really. Okay, so that's artillery fire. And as you can see now, those Landwehr are in attack columns. Hopefully they're going to be the nearest targets and you have to shoot at them. But with the rule that we have, you can turn the artillery a bit. It's not going to... Anyway. It's a shooting gallery. So well done my guys for at least taking them out for one turn. Okay. Right, this is where we roll for reserves. So my turn 4. So I have to roll under 4 on 2 dice, and I roll exactly 4. If I roll 1 less, the heavy cavalry will be coming on right now. Turn 5, so it's effectively Roger's third turn. And yeah, see the smokes there. Now he's got his artillery back in action. Boom, boom, boom. Lots of fire going in over there. I did great on the rallying. I've got to mention that. These are getting hit, those 2s, but I managed to rally those off. Well, I did some successful rallies, so that was good news. Back to me for turn 6. And here you see my artillery firing as my reaction, and Roger's placed his artillery very craftily here, because whichever way I angle my guns, I can't get both batteries into the same firing lanes. I'm going to fire on one of his batteries. You get 4 dice, you get 3 hits to make them limber, so you know the odds are against. And I didn't get lucky this time. This is a little bit confusing because I've taken a photograph from Roger's side of the board, from the French side, so you can more clearly see on the far left how my attack is developing. So I've got the bottom 3 battalions, bottom left hand corner, those 3 battalions all went from column of march to attack columns. The bottom 2 are outside 4 base widths from the nearest enemy, so they can move in to a really good attacking position. And the one in the bottom left hand corner is just out of the firing arc, the firing line I should say, so we'll only shoot on the 1 unit. And the next unit up though was just inside 4U, so it could change to attack column but not move as well in the same turn. They got the dilemma then, there was 2 units of Landwehr just getting pounded by the artillery. What can you do? If they move, they're still going to be shot at anyway, and also their rally becomes more difficult. If they remain stationary, they've got to roll 1 dice and get a 4 or more to take a hit off. If they move, you roll 2 dice, and both have to be 4 or more to take a hit off. So they're not going to rally really. So they just got to stand there. You just don't want to be them, because just stand there and take it. So there's the same thing from my side, and you might be able to work out that the top 3 battalions can all fire on his 1 battalion. The guys who couldn't move were within 4U, so they must still be within 4U. Yep, and there's a picture of the overall situation, and you can see that here's Roger's reaction. So immediately, boom, 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 all artillery's pummeling those poor Landwehr in the middle, and at the top the shooting started. So Roger's shuffling up support units. So if my 3rd unit here joins in the assault, he'll get shot at on the way in by that extra line as well. Turn 7, so it's back to me. And here's the situation showing the other flank, and as you can see, the French have now got 5 battalions at the bottom of the table. They've taken that objective, but I've got a unit near the bridge which is keeping me in the game. There's 2 units of Landwehr, and I think I've lucked out a bit here, because if they had crossed the river as per plan A, they'd be the ones getting blown up while the other units try to make the assault over there. And meanwhile this bottom position would be overrun, I think. So being where they are, they can now join in, and actually I can get the artillery and 4 battalions against these 5 battalions and try and break this side of his army instead. So things are suddenly changing which flank to go for. I might have an advantage in both flanks somehow. So there goes my assault. I've got the top 2 battalions are going in, which will give me 13 dice against Roger's 7. And my 3rd battalion, if it comes into close contact, will get shot by that other battalion, so they've just held back a bit. So the idea is we smash those up and destroy them in 1 turn, and I've got 3 battalions facing 1, and we'll just keep assaulting, and roll up the whole flank. So it's turn 8, so I try and roll less than 8 to bring on my cavalry reserve, and roll 10, so you have to continue without them. It's a real shame, they would have been so useful now. So sure enough, the assault's successful, and that gold marker shows where that French unit was. And there's a nice block of 3 battalions now facing down 1 battalion. So we're starting to roll this flank up quite nicely. Right here you see the other flank, with the 5 French battalions coming forward on a broad front to really smash up this part of my position if I'm not careful. I've got a couple of landweers, but the artillery's there, and the plan is to let him come on to me, shoot, and then use the fact you can move backwards at half speed to keep out of shooting range and try and get 2 shots in before the charge comes home. And hopefully I can do that long enough either to get the reserves on, or like I said, to continue that rolling up of the flank at the top. So Roger now rolled for his reserves and got 3, which is much less than 9. So on comes his heavy cavalry, cuirassiers, and I don't know if you can see it on this photograph, but this comes with horse artillery. Nightmare, just what I don't want to see. Now, the way Roger deployed this, he actually messed this up a bit, because the rules are they have to come in within 4 base widths of the edge of the table, and he's put them line abreast there, facing forward. Well, they've got no room to wheel, because these are large units. His heavy cavalry has 6 bases each, and the horse artillery is stuck on the left edge there. So we had a discussion about this. You can see the situation there with the horse artillery, because it has to be within 4. What Roger hadn't realised, it doesn't say which way you have to face, and you could put them in column and face them off to the side. So I was trying to mention this and hint, but he wasn't picking up on the hint. So anyway, yeah. So this is Roger's 5th turn, turn 10. So that photograph slightly out of sequence, and I can see the situation. My reactions now, over to my turn, so the dice is out of order. My artillery now got a great shot. He's basically put those in literally as cannon fodder. I have to shoot at the nearest target, so those guys are going to get it in the middle, and I shoot over onto the ones next to them as well. And his main assault at the bottom is going to be left unscathed to come and bash its way through. That's the plan. And on the other flank I've now advanced 3 battalions into perfect position to have 3-to-1 odds against that 1 battalion that's going to start shooting at them, with the top one being out as firing lanes. Turn 10, and I get my reserve to come on, which is which is good timing, and I'm glad they came on then, because I was talking to Roger. You can put them in column and face them sideways, and he's like, oh yeah, should have realised that. So obviously I let him change that, because otherwise the cavalry just stuck there, couldn't move through the town, not enough room to wheel. They'd never be in the game. Use a little bit of common sense. So my turn 11, and those battalions, as you can see at the top, are lining up to go piling in. I'm turning around the bottom. Look at that, nice setup. So you like to see. Roger's done his shooting. He's done 1 pip on each, as you can see. Could have been worse, so I've got away with it a little bit. Already seen that. So now you see my left-hand flank with these battalions massing to come and break through my guys, which I've got in line for maximum shooting. My artillery doing nice in the middle, taking out that attack column, and I've got 3 columns to 2, I'm hoping, and even match it with the artillery support, and suddenly this side's looking pretty good from my point of view. Okay, we're on Roger's movement, and you can see now because the cavalry, the heavy cavalry's in column, they're allowed, well, even if they weren't in column, you can interpenetrate artillery freely as long as you clear them, and he had just enough movement for them to clear the artillery and now pose a threat to my 3 battalions at the top, which is suddenly looking very exposed. So what was a great position on the right flank is suddenly looking very precarious, whereas the left flank, which was just meant to be a holding operation, I've suddenly got the advantage. So this game is turning around very quickly. So the French heavy cavalry are able to reform, and they can interpenetrate the artillery without any penalty. and now they're threatening the flank of those 3 battalions up there, so they better get on with it quick, get that infantry shut down and form squares, I guess. Turn 12, or Roger's 6 turn, or French 6 turn. I think those dice must be out of order there, because as you can see from all the tufts of smoke, the cotton wool smoke, I knew they'd come in useful. You can see I've just done my reactions, so everything's got to shoot, which is great. I've got this infantry in line, they get to fire at both. Rubbish casualties though. 1 red dot, so 1 on the 1 battalion, miss the other one completely. Very frustrating. And then I have 2 hits with the artillery, so they're almost broken, with a little bit of support fire from the side, and an opening fire on the top. So this side's suddenly looking, actually doing some damage. And the little sneaky thing I do now is, because he just moved just within 4, he's going to charge me. That's the plan. But what I do is I just do a little half move backwards, so back out of charge range. He's going to have to advance again. I get to shoot them again. So there's just another angle of what's going on there, so you can see the figures. So the infantry step back a bit, and you can see my heavy cavalry has now arrived behind the cannons, ready to charge through and take out these battalions if they keep advancing. So really, the French attack is stuffed here now. It's a combined arms defence. Artillery, cavalry, infantry, all nicely coordinated. They got no chance. Okay, a bit of a blurry pic, but you can see there Prussian heavy cavalry falling up behind the artillery. And if you look behind them, my horse artillery has now got a shot with a field of fire to join in the fun. And up on the hill I've got my 2nd battalion of heavy cavalry, which more by luck than judgment are just near enough to each other to be have the same commander. Right, sorry for the confusing angle again. I've come round the other side of the table, because it's a stretch to move the figures when they're right up against the far ends like this. And you can see now the 2 battalions have gone smashing in. We're going to do 13 dice against 7. If we can double him, they're wiped out. And I think they got a couple of hits anyway, so probably going to destroy those. The other unit has formed square, which denies any sort of charge angle for his cavalry. I mean, he might be able to squeeze through, but I think the square should be in the way. And then we either push on, depending on where his cavalry goes, or just have to form a square there and take the gains that we've got and just try and rally over time. And that's just another angle, so you can see it's almost impossible for his cavalry to wheel through the gap without hitting the square. So the top 2 battalions are free to finish those ones off. Turn 13. I'm sure we got the numbers the wrong way around. That was me keeping score. Sorry, Roger. Right, I've gone for a low camera angle here to try and show where this is taking place. Just below the bridge, see the village in the background. We're coming to head on. These battalions are going to clash, and we're going to find out the hard way who's going to win that bit of ground. So you can see Roger's reactions there. They get to shoot the attacking columns and the square. Oh, anyway. So you can see from the red dots there just about the hits I've taken, or the Prussians have taken from artillery. Those, by the way, those guys in the middle, the ones who were catching the cannonballs, right a couple of times, as you can see they've gone completely now. So there we are. Didn't even bother marking those. And the combined shooting with the artillery just off sight, off the picture, and the infantry there was enough to destroy that French battalion, so that was good. And I was just saying to Roger at the time, I don't bother showing the dice anymore on battle reports, because you just want to see the effects, the wounds and everything. And unless it's something really exceptional, then it's just not interesting. Except me and my big mouth, because you can just know what's going to happen here. So my units have done their shooting first, loads of dice, because I've got 2 lots, battalions, skirmish advantage, the square adds a dice, and then 1 hit. Okay, should be enough. The guys all charge in. On the right, you see my 13 dice with 2 hits. On the left, there's a bit of a shine on the screen, but anyway, you can see Roger's 7 dice with his 4 hits. Not only did I not wipe him out, I didn't even win. I didn't even draw. I lost. They all recoil. I take hits. That's it. That rolling up the flank has just ended. So I am showing some dice. I was gutted. So there they all go reeling back with hits on everything. Then I'm just standing there. Oh, he'll get to shoot again on his turn, just piling in more agony. The cavalry are coming round. This flank was looking so good. That was such a cruel roll. I have to say that the randomness in the honour games, and this one in particular, is spot on. It's not like I rolled one dice, rolled a 1, and he rolled one dice, got a 6, as we get into my other games. You know, I had a big handful of dice. They were just rubbish. Roger rolled above average. Boom. Ah, disaster. Okay, turn 15. This game's almost finishing. And, yeah. Anyway, so you can see at the bottom here that Roger, canny old operator that he is, can see that he's in a no-win situation here. If he advances again, I'll shoot him again. The artillery's now got a gap there. It's going to swing round and join in. Because, as you can see, there's a gap. They've been wiped out, those middle French battalions. So he's now retreating out to range of me. So that's what I should have pursued at this point. I'm trying to get my cavalry in there on the artillery. If the cavalry go forward, they'll block the artillery shooting. But I really want to win this flank quickly now, because I know the top flanks become a disaster zone. But he's also aware of this and is pulling out of way, so it's a cracking game. Turn 16, game's almost up. Yep, so Roger's charged me this time. There was a battalion there a minute ago, in the middle, facing that French one. Yep, as you can see there, there's Roger's 7 dice. He's rolled 2 hits. You know, he's hit no 5s and 6s, but average. And my 8 dice, I've rolled 1. So, Roger's scores doubled mine. The French had doubled them. Defenders wiped out. Man, this war is hell. It can be cruel sometimes. Why do we play games with dice? So my artillery's fired at these 2 columns down the bottom, trying to finish them off while I still got a chance. Done 1 pip and a miss. Disappointing. But I have got that central battalion now turning to come in on the flank of these guys and add their fire, and the cavalry's coming up, because we've got the strange situation where my battalion in the middle bashed through its opponent and is coming round, and the one just above it, the French one, also bashed through its opposite battalion and is coming round. But I've got cavalry there, so I know you can see in the middle there. I've rolled again for these guys, top left of your screen. We've also charged in. They rolled a 4, so they're okay this turn, but they will have to roll again. Oh yeah, I should have mentioned earlier there, the first Landweers who charged in rolled a 6, so they became excellent, and the extra dice, and they're the ones who broke their opponents. So, but then they got, anyway, we'll see what happens to them. No plot spoiling. So, looking at the top there, my reaction fire, I'm blazing away, doing 2 hits. I still shoot them a bit. It's, you know, it's good, but look, so frustrating. Okay, now clearly you can see this, but from memory, my guys in the middle are on 3 hits already, so they can't charge. They're stuck where they are. They didn't rally. The guys at the top are on 2, so they're going to have to charge on their own and just hope. Hope I get some luck with the dice, get for a double, because you can't just stand there. They get outshot, and the cavalry's coming round. Oh. Okay, so it's turn 17, so we passed the 16 turn mandatory end, if you like. So this is the first turn after that 16 turns, and the way it works is you roll a dice each. If you both roll equal to or less than the turn number, the game ends immediately. So if you both roll a 1, game would end. And we rolled. Ooh. That was almost it, which would probably been just as well for me. Oh, so here's my Peggy 6s. Ah, now this was frustrating. The way this works is the artillery that you can see the measure on are just in canister range. So they must fire canister, so they get double dice, because my guys have charged in, because they're sitting there, they're about to get shot by the artillery. So they've charged in. So as a reaction, the artillery can still shoot. and can the defending infantry. So these guys are getting the grape shot. And I was thinking, well, how can you fire grape shot when you've got the French battalion on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen directly in the fire line? But, you know, having checked the rules as well, the fire line stops where you hit the first enemy. And also, as Roger was pointing out, the range of canister is only that far. The canister doesn't reach them anyway, so they wouldn't be in the shooting. So these guys, my sixes, as you can see from the dice, are already getting a bit of trouble. So that shows the range of the canister, so it wouldn't have reached his unit, just short. So, so he was saying that, you know, Roger was saying they're out of range anyway, so it's true, they are. So either way you look at it, and it's in the rules anyway, it stops at the point where you hit someone. So there you go, as long as your unit's not nearer, you can actually shoot towards your own units, worth remembering. And just to rub salt in my wounds, the other battery could angle itself so that it fires down the gap, and neither of his units gets clipped. I was like, oh, no way, surely. 2 units in front of you, and you're going to thread these cannonballs down the gap. And there we are. So these poor guys coming into the assault, they get shot by the infantry, plus 1 battery with canister, plus 1 battery. Oh, that's a lot of dice. So back at the top, the defensive shooting, of course, he gets to shoot the unit that didn't move as well. Did a wound on those. That was enough to destroy them, the ones that were on 3. And the guys on 2 are now charging in unsupported. All the cavalry, all that artillery opens up, and the infantry, and just obliterates my Peggy 6s. My star unit. And they just got pulverised. Oh. Yep, so the guys at the top have to charge in unsupported. I think they might have won it, but it was insignificant. There was no wipeout or anything. Yeah, all these heavy cavalry. I'm just ready to see the mechanics and if it would work. And that's what he said anyway. Roger sends the heavy cavalry, the glorious large regiment of heavy cuirassiers, into the square, which I think is already on 3 wounds, maybe 2 or 3. So if I lose, they're going to be dead anyway. So I guess it's worth a shot because the cuirassiers are pretty fresh, except for my artillery on the hill, which did get a shot off on them and has popped a wound on each. If I could get a second wound, there's quite a crucial shot here actually, because if the artillery, you can see them on the right on the hill, if they could get another hit on the cavalry making the charge on the square, he'd lose another attack dice, because you get 1 for every 2 and it would bring it down on the rounding down thing. But unfortunately they missed. Turn 18, and we didn't both roll a 2, so the game continues. Okay, here's my firing. My artillery is just pounding away at these guys on the bottom, but I can't do enough to really break them. So I've got the infantry. The cavalry were just out of charge range of his battalion. So frustrating. And I had to bring them up just to contest the objectives, so I wouldn't lose on objective count. Because the infantry, I wanted to bring them further down to join in beating up on these battalions. I've got to try and break him, because I'm just about to break myself now. In fact, I think we did a check, and I've reached the break point. So I have to roll. I get 5 dice, and I have to roll greater than the turn number that we're on. You've got to remember, we're way into the game. We're on turn 18. So I've got to roll more than 18. 1, 1, 1, 4, 5. So there we are, I've rolled 12. So my army's broken, and to be honest, Roger had it won anyway. Hope you enjoyed that. There's the final situation. Yes. Yeah, no, I think I was well beaten there. I think, reflecting back on it, our house rules did have an effect on this. And the one with the... I think the angling of the artillery works really well, and I would highly recommend it. And it takes out so much of the fiddling around where you're trying to manoeuvre things to just get out of firing lines. It just makes a more realistic and quicker paced game. And but what we need to allow for is the fact that this means the artillery now fire, I know, twice as much as they used to. And we played games we'd avoid them almost the entire battle. So you could say even more than twice as useful. So we have to tone down, I think, their effectiveness. Maybe they can only do 1 wound at long range, regardless of how many hits they score. This is the thing. This always happens with games, isn't it? As soon as you start to alter the mechanics, you get knock-on consequences you have to think about. It's another thing with the line shooting. We have this rule where if you get two columns, attack columns, attacking a line, it seems a little bit unfair that defensive fires only against one of them. Excuse me, taking a sip. So we allow them to shoot at all of those in the firing line, which works great when they're being assaulted like that. Where I don't think it works so well is when you're in a standoff situation where they're not being assaulted and it's just a firefight, because the attack columns are already getting less dice for their formation, so it's evened out already. And the situation we had at the top there, when I had two attack columns and a square and all three were getting shot every turn by the one unit in line, was just a nightmare, you know, and nothing could really move away because of the cavalry. So one battalion was destroying three. Anyway, so things to think about. I hope you enjoyed the report. Yeah, please leave some comments. Let me know what you think of those little house rules, how the game went, and if you have any of your own rules you'd like to add. Okay? And I'll try and get another report up soon. Bye.